All right, so have any of you guys seen the movie? Here's a movie reference for you. 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. It is my favorite Adam Sandler movie. Some of his stuff is a little too juvenile for me, but this one, I mean, they're fine, but this is my favorite Adam Sandler movie. The premise is he lives in Hawaii, and he works at like a zoo. And he goes to this diner, he meets this girl, Lucy, which is played by Drew Barrymore, and they have this little meet cute, and he's like, oh, I really like her. And he's like trying to hit on her. And then he comes to find out that she had been in a terrible car accident in the last year, and she can no longer make memories. So every day, she's like Groundhog Day for her. Every day she wakes up, she doesn't know. Every day she wakes up thinking it's her dad's birthday, every single day. So then Adam Sandler has to decide, like, I really like this girl, but she's never going to, like, I can't have a normal relationship with her. So he has to decide, is she worth pursuing? Well, he eventually decides that she is worth pursuing. So every day, he has one day to make her fall in love with him. And over the course of time, sometimes he does great, sometimes she kicks him.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes she beats him with a bat. Like, some days are good days and some days are bad days. And so they end up falling in love. But I think it's really cute the way he continually pursues her, even though she can never love him back in the way that is normal. Because she can't remember. She can't build up that long-term love, you know, that normally people would have. So there's that movie I love. And then I also got to thinking, as I was thinking about this topic, of the classic. So those of you who don't know 50 First Dates, you'll probably know this one, Pride and Prejudice. If you guys have read the book or watched the movie Pride and Prejudice. And in this story, there's Mr. Darcy, he was like uber rich, kind of snooty. And then Elizabeth, who is family name, but they don't have a lot of money. And they meet, it's like your typical like meet and like, ew, I don't like, you know, like I don't like him and I don't like her. And then they, of course, they kind of fall in love with each other. Well, over the course of the movie, she gets really angry at him because her sister falls in love with his best friend and he separates them. So she's like, he's a jerk. I can't stand him. And she just thinks he's this arrogant guy that is, you know, real jerk. But she also kind of falls in love with him. But he definitely falls in love with her. And midway through the movie, there's this scene where in the rain, you know, and he comes up to her and he's like, I am bewitched by you. I am in love with you. And she's like, you're despicable. And she totally dresses him down for separating. She's like, he's like, what? Why do you think that? And she's like, because you separated my sister and the man she loved because you didn't think that she was rich enough. And he's like, no, I didn't think they were well suited. I didn't think she liked him, and I think your mom is like always looking at the money and all that stuff. So he's like, but if that's your opinion of me, fine. Now most men would walk away. Most men would be like, well, obviously she hates me, I'm out. But that's not what Mr. Darcy does. He then spends the rest of the movie, and I don't think he's trying to make her love him, but like he gets the two that he separated back together. Her other sister runs off with this rogue guy, this cad guy, and he runs after them and forces the guy to marry, not forces, he kind of buys the guy off, so that he'll marry the sister so that there's not like a big scandal in the family. And then she realizes she really does love him and he's really a good guy. He doesn't tell her these things. Someone else tells her that he does these things. And so she realizes that she's misjudged him. And now she's in love with him, but she has told him that she thinks he's despicable. She thinks she's lost her chance. And at the end of the movie, of course, like all good love stories, they come back together. And he's like, I am in love with you, body, spirit, and soul. I did all these things for you. I love you so much that I did these things for you because I love you and I want you to be happy. And the first time I watched that movie, I was wrecked. I'm like sobbing, crying. And I remember crying out to God, like, God, I want a love like that. I want someone who loves me like that. And I was thinking like a human husband, of course, because, you know. But God said back to me, Stephanie, I love you like that. And more. And I was like, okay, I know that in my head that you love me, but I don't feel it in my heart. Like, I don't truly experience that. I know that you love mankind, because, like, you sent Jesus and stuff, but I don't feel loved by you, Lord. And so that's what I prayed. I prayed, Lord, I know in my head that you love me. Like, I understand it conceptually, but I don't feel it. I don't actually feel loved by you. And I realized over the course of time that a lot of issues that I had with people and things in my life were because I didn't feel loved by the Lord. A lot of my outages, a lot of times I would be like trying to get attention and trying to get love and pull love from other people instead of giving love out to people. I was a love vacuum, sucking in all the attention without actually giving it out. And that was because I felt a shortage because I didn't feel the love of Christ in my heart. And so I prayed that prayer, and over the course of time, this is probably 10 years later now, I feel loved by God now. But it took a long time, and I can't tell you, like, he did this, this, and this. There's no, like, magic formula. But he answered that prayer over time. And so as I was thinking about this, the whole reason I thought to preach this is because I was thinking about that song, Make You Feel My Love. It was actually, I always think of this as a Garth Brooks song because I first really encountered this song watching the movie Hope Floats, and Garth Brooks sings the version in that. But actually, Bob Dylan wrote that song. I tried to find Bob Dylan's version, and I'm sorry, I'm going to play a version. I'm sorry, his version is just not as good. For those of you Bob Dylan fans, I'm sorry, my opinion of his version isn't as good. But Billy Joel actually sang commercially, was the first one to really release it. And I tried listening to Billy Joel's version, and it's fine. I still think Garth Brooks' is better. But it's such a great love song that, like, Garth Brooks has done it. Adele has done it. I looked up, like, Make You Feel My Love to, like, I'm gonna show it for you. And, like, or play it for you. And, like, all these big artists have sang this song. It is such a great love song. So I'm gonna play this song for you. And what I want you to do is, as you listen, instead of thinking it from a human perspective, I want you to think that God is singing this song to you. So take the lyrics and put a little twist on them and think that this is a song that God is singing to you. And I've put some of my favorite lyrics. I didn't put all the lyrics up. I couldn't find a good version of the video with the lyrics in it, so I just gave you some of the lyrics, and I'm just going to play it. I found a short version. This one's only 3 minutes. When you make that song about God singing to you, like, I'll hold you for 1,000,000 years, I'll go to the ends of the earth for you, I would do anything for you to make you feel my love. Like, I love the lyrics of that song.
And he's such a godly man.
Yeah. I don't know, does anyone know, was Bob Dylan a believer? Could the song have been written? Does anyone know? Here's some of the lyrics that to me really stand out when I think of in this context of Jesus. I go hungry, I go black and blue, I go crawling down the avenue. And I think of Jesus like going hungry, being beaten, crawling down the avenue with the cross on his back for us. That the Lord did this. He does this so we can feel his love. Like, he loves us that much that he would be willing to take a beating for us. He would go to the ends of the earth. You cannot run from Jesus. You cannot run from God. You can try to hide from him, but he is always wherever you are. Always loving you, no matter where you are, and I love that. All right, so how do we know, like, I think about the Bible, how do we know that God loves us? Like, if you can't feel it, how do you know, how do you at least start with the idea in your head? And the Bible is a love story. I don't know if you realize this, the whole Bible, if you look at it as a whole story, is a love story of a God who made a perfect place for his rebellious children, who they rebelled, and he constantly is running after them. Adam and Eve rebelled, and yes, he kicked them out of the garden, but he clothed them, and he made a promise to send Jesus. Okay? The Israelites, I got to thinking this week, they walked through the sea, they got water from a rock, they got healed from snake bites, they had manna from heaven, their clothes never wore out, they had the literal manifest presence of the Lord in front of them at all times in fire and smoke, and still they didn't believe. He continued to promise them, I'm going to lead you into the promised land. I'm going to bless your children. I'm going to bless you. He continued, even though they continued to rebel, he continued to love them and provide them and try to find new ways to like show them how much he loved them. He never gives up on us, ever. You can totally reject him and run off like the prodigal son and like go off and just be like, I'm out. And he is still watching for you, waiting for you to come back to him. He loves us that much. And when the prodigal son returned, the father wasn't like, well, you're back. Now you got to work for 5 years to earn back the money that you, like he ran and he hugged his kid and he put a ring on him and he threw a party. Like that's how much God loves us. We see it over and over in the Bible, how much he loves us. He so loved us, he sent Jesus to die for us. So there's no doubt that he loves you. And I used to think, yeah, he loves all mankind, and I'm one of them, so yeah, he likes me. No, he loves you individually, no matter how errant you are, how many times you turn away from him, how many times you don't make time for him, he loves you. And he wants to show you how much he loves you. And so I got to thinking, like, what are some, all right, that's great, Stephanie. I can believe that here, but how do we get it here? How do we get it down into our heart? And so I'm going to give you a couple of practical things that you can kind of do to allow that process to begin to happen. And the first thing to do is pray for it. Is just say, Lord, say what I did. Like, I don't feel it. I don't feel loved by you, Lord. I know it, but I don't experience it as my reality. So help me. That is a prayer he absolutely wants to answer. And so I believe he'll do that. I use my imagination. I feel like I'm like really loud now. Do that. I use my imagination. Like I imagine him coming and hugging me. I imagine him walking and holding my hand. Like I use my imagination to help me conceptualize what it would mean, like in an earthly, like I put him in the place of a human loving me, and what would that look like? Listen to songs that proclaim it, like this song. And I like to I love Jesus music, don't get me wrong, I listen to it all the time, but I also love to take a secular song like this and flip it to be a love song from the Lord. So one of my all-time favorite songs is Journey, Faithfully from Journey. You guys know that song? Oh, Roxanne. And I imagine that song as a duet, where I am the one who's on the road, on the circus, life is hard, and God is saying, I'm forever yours, Stephanie, faithfully. He is singing to me no matter what distance, no matter how hard it is, I am forever yours. And I just love that song for that reason. I used to think of, before I really started to have a real relationship with the Lord, I always thought, when I get married, I'm going to play that song. It's going to be a great romance song. And now I'm like, I don't think I will, because that's like between me and God now. Like that's he and I song. Like those of you who are married have like your song, that's your song together. Like that's my song with the Lord, is Faithfully. Every time it comes on now, I think of him singing to me. So surround yourself with messaging that tells you how much he loves you. Read the Bible. The Bible is a love story. Like I have the Passion Translation and the book Song of Songs, which most people skim over. Most people don't, especially like if you read an old translation, I think it's kind of hard to get. And some people are kind of afraid of it. They're like, oh, it's about sex. And they don't want to read it because they think it's like. But the Passion Translation is written to show the passion of the Lord towards you. Like that book is written from the rosy lens of God loves you. And so the book Song of Songs, like it inspired me so much I'm actually writing a kid's book based on it. Like it's so much a love story. The book Song of Songs is actually a love story between God and us. And I'm going to read you a portion of it at the end, and you'll see that. So read the Bible and read it through the lens of a love story between a father who loves his kids running after his rebellious kids and trying to win them over. And be patient. It took me, I don't even know how many years. It was one of those things like when I had my foot surgery, my foot hurt, and then one day, like a year or two later, I'm like, oh, my foot doesn't hurt anymore. Like, it's not like one day I woke up like, oh, my foot's better. Like, it took me years to suddenly realize, oh, I don't have that pain anymore. And the same thing happened with feeling like he loves me now. So just got to be patient. It's not something that happens like, if you're not feeling it, it's not something that happens like right away. So I wanted to close with a book, some reading from the book Song of Songs in the Passion Translation. Oh no, I'm going to tell you this verse. All right. So the Shulamite is us. Okay, she's this woman, and the shepherd king is obviously Jesus. It's God. So she says, I know I am so unworthy. I am so much in need. And the king says, you are so lovely. So I just picture her sitting here like, don't talk to me, like I'm so, like if someone comes to your house and your house is a mess and your hair is a wreck and you're like, why are you here? Like I look like crap. Like I'm not all cleaned up for you. You know? And so she's like, I'm so ugly and needy and like worthless. And he's like, you're beautiful. You are so lovely. And then she says, I feel dark and dry as a desert tent of the wandering nomads. And he says, no, you are so lovely. You're like fine linen tapestry hanging in the holy place. So she's like thinking, I'm a tent in the desert that's all dirty and raggedy and torn and ugh. And he's like, no. You're like, when you see in the movies and the king has this giant tent made out of silk, even though he's in the middle of the desert, he's like, that's what you are. And he says, listen, my radiant one, if you ever lose sight of me, just follow my footsteps where I lead my lovers. Come with your burdens and cares. Come to the place near the sanctuary of my shepherds. And I love that he's like, come, be with me, sit with me. There's a verse in the Bible in the Psalms that says, even the sparrows and the swallows are welcome to build a nest on your altar. Sparrows and swallows are the most boring, prevalent birds. Like there's a cajillion of them, and there's like, I love looking at birds, but sparrows and swallows do nothing for me. You know, when I see a cardinal or a blue jay, or I saw an owl, like I'm like, ooh, I don't see a swallow and go, ooh, a swallow. No, they're everywhere. And yet, God's like, come build a nest on my altar. You're that special to me. And then he says, my dearest one, let me tell you how I see you. You are thrilling to me. To gaze upon you is like looking at one of the Pharaoh's finest horses. You are a purebred, gorgeous, shining in the sun to him. The strong, regal steed pulling a royal chariot. You are strong and gorgeous, worthy of royalty. Your tender cheeks are beautiful, my darling. You are so lovely. You are beauty itself. Your passionate eyes are like gentle doves. And he's saying, when you look at me and you love me, you are beauty itself. There is nothing more beautiful to the Lord than us when we are loving him. He is so thrilled with us when we are loving him. And that's all it takes. We don't have to get ourselves right. We don't have to patch it all up. We don't have to do all the good things. We just have to talk to him and come to him and be like, God, I want to know you. And that to him is the most beautiful, glorious, radiant thing ever. And so this week, if you don't feel in your heart the love of the Lord as a reality, I invite you, this is still getting feedback. I invite you to invite him in and ask him to help you to feel his love. Listen to love songs and start to imagine that they are songs of God towards you. This is where you'll realize if they're love songs or lust songs, because lust songs, don't imagine those. That's weird. But the true love songs, imagine those as a love song from God to you. And let him start to love you in a way that you deserve, and you start to be filled up with his love. And when we are filled with his love, then we are able to outpour it. Then we're not trying to suck it out of everybody else. We will be so filled with his love that we won't be able to help pouring it out on everyone around us. But first, we have to receive it. So, God loves you, absolutely, undoubtedly, no matter what. And if there's anyone here who has not surrendered their hearts to the Lord, the next slide here is altar call. If anyone here has not surrendered their hearts to the Lord and wants to, when we play this, hopefully Steph has 2 songs. This next song, you can come up, and if anyone has prayer requests, if you need to be prayed over at the end of service, I'll gladly pray over anybody who is needing prayer for healing of yourself or anyone around you. So you guys can come see me after service for that. All right, so the invitation prayer is I surrender all.